Hi, Rob. Thanks for joining us today. We worked with you recently, really enjoyed it, looking at the Catman maturity within Kongsberg. And we've got a few questions we wanted to ask you about the approach and the value in the team that you and the team got from it. So firstly, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and Kongsberg?
Thanks, Mark. Pleasure to be here. My name is Rob Anthony. I have worked in supply chain for over 26 years. I did 20 years with Rolls-Royce Aerospace and Marine. And then 6 years ago, I moved over to Kongsberg when Kongsberg acquired Rolls-Royce Marine. And I've been working in Kongsberg Maritime, but also with a group-wide role since then. My career has mainly been in supply chain, both procurement, logistics, and planning. And to talk a bit about Kongsberg, so Kongsberg means King's Mountain. Kong is king, Berg is mountain. It's a company that's actually existed since 1814, actually created when Norway actually got its first constitution. And it has a strong defense business historically as well. And then since oil was found, has increasingly a strong maritime business. And with the acquisition of Rolls-Royce Marine 6 years ago, maritime is the biggest business, with defence also a very, very strong business. We also have two other business areas in the company, one called Kongsberg Discovery, which is about discovering the ocean, subsea capabilities, and surveillance. And we also have a smaller digital business. So as a company, it is a Norwegian company with locations in 40 countries, just over 14,000 employees, and just nearly 50 billion NOK in revenue. So quite exciting business across defence and maritime businesses globally.
Great. And how's supply chain set up within maritime?
Yeah, so I can talk about supply chain just at a group level and then about maritime. So Kongsberg has quite a small headquarters. So group responsibilities are sitting within the different business, what we call business areas. I'm responsible for group indirect and group supply chain activity sitting within the maritime business. And as an example, the CIO for IT actually sits within the defense business. So we have different roles sitting in the different business areas. But within those strong business areas, with a very small headquarters, we have divisions. Divisions are organized by group of products and systems and P&L. And then within those divisions, we have business units that are also aligned by product family and P&L. And we really are focused on having a product line structure. So how focused on our customers. So how is supply chain set up? Well, the majority of our supply chain resources actually sit within those divisions and business units, close to the sites, and also in the regions around the world, particularly USA, Americas, EMEA, and Asia. But we also have a smaller central team covering shared services, process tools and capability, and areas that we've agreed will be better run centrally. As part of that, we also have a team not just in Norway, but around the world. But we also have a shared service office for supply chain that we've established in Krakow. We established that when we were in Rolls-Royce, and we've continued with that. And we now have over 60 people supporting multiple businesses across Kongsberg on supply chain and procurement.
Excellent. Yeah, so I was wondering, Rob, how long have you guys been doing category management for?
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. So we actually in Rolls-Royce Marine set up strategic procurement from around 2011, and we've been really deploying strategic procurement and category management since then. So about 14, 15 years. It's been a journey in our maritime business. There was a very strong growth period until around 2015, when there was a downturn. And actually now we're seeing maritime is also in a growth period. So obviously category management has different priorities when you're in a growth or in a downturn. Obviously we're still focused on the key areas, but maybe with different priorities. So strategic procurement has continued since then, and we have some of our people have been category managers and working in strategic procurement for that time frame. So we have a good level of experience, but we also have new technologies and also new regions that we're covering that we need to be ready for. Our main challenges right now are being ready for the growth, making sure we've got enough capability and capacity around the world, and also skill sets, that we have skills and capability to manage those categories.
Hi, Rob. I was just going to, I mean, you've started to talk about it anyway, but I was going to just ask you a question about, the opportunity you feel there is in category management. We've met a lot of your team, and we've been talking to you for a while, and understand that you're good in many areas of category management. But just what do you think the opportunity is now to go from good to great?
Yes, thank you for the question, Matt. So we've been doing category management for a while, and strategic procurement, and quality cost delivery. We feel that we're delivering a reasonable level of cost savings every year. We've got good sourcing plans. We've got a reasonable level of contract coverage. We have good supplier engagement. So that's fine. We don't need to do anything else. But if you take a step back and you say, actually, are we capturing the full strategic value that we could through strategic procurement and category management? That is a question. And do we need to look at things with an independence view to sort of test where we are, compare ourselves with our competitors or with other good industrial benchmarks, and say, okay, we might be doing, as you said, a good job, but are we doing a great job? And how can we actually understand what that gap might be? So really, the reason and we worked with future purchasing, and we decided to take a look at category management was more around opportunity. What more opportunity is there? How can we maximize the strategic value? And the reality is that 95% of people in supply chain are working on operations or working on deliveries for this year. So how do we uplift, and how do we think about capturing our strategic value, and also thinking about our risk management out to 2030 and out to 2035?
Great. I was going to just say, we worked with you for a really rapid sort of maturity assessment, and I was just interested to see how you felt we as a team worked with your team, and just maybe share some insights in terms of the approach and what you felt was of value.
Yeah, so we kicked off a piece of work with future purchasing. We actually worked with you before, I think about 8 or 10 years ago, and we knew each other, and we stayed in contact. And we felt now was the right time to do a benchmark. What we were looking for was an independent assessment, and also more an advisory engagement, where you come in, we work together, you do some kind of holistic evaluation with some industrial benchmarks. We can have a good engagement discussion about that, and then we can build that into our strategy for the future. So that was the goal. Working with future purchasing went very well. I think you're very open. I think we have good sounding board discussion. One very important point is you're listening, which we appreciate, because one of the challenges when you're doing benchmarks is fixed views on applicability, which may be different on the industry. So getting a tailored benchmark that can fit with the industry while still bringing in the benchmarks and challenging yourself is important. And when we talk particularly about maritime doesn't fit easily into the benchmarks. When you look at the drop down menus on these, the maritime is never on there. It's aerospace, transportation, industrial equipment. So we found it hard in the past to get good tailored benchmarks for maritime. So we definitely found it very useful engaging with future purchasing and fitting the benchmarks with our business.
So one of the observations I had was we spoke to you about a series of questions that we've asked industry over many years, and how they would how you'd score yourself, or your team scored themselves. But you asked us to tailor some of the questions specifically to your business.
Yes, we did, and we appreciate that. And we also agreed to do interviews rather than a survey by email. The reason is we do a lot of surveys. Also, really getting that one-to-one engagement through interviews, people open up a bit more. And also in Norway, and maybe part of the Norwegian culture in the company, the importance of dialogue is very important. And what they talk about is direct dialogue. So you actually speak one-to-one with someone, and you have direct dialogue on a topic, and you're allowed air to breathe, have time to sort of talk about it without rushing the conversation. So having one-to-one interviews with enough time really allow people to open up and pull that information through. And lastly, it actually meant they were engaged, because if you interview people and then you start to do an improvement program, people feel connected because they've already given their input.
And Rob, how did you find the 6-dimension approach that we used? Because that was pretty fundamental to the approach.
Yeah, so I think it's actually behind you in the 6 aspects. So, we can see there the different aspects that we looked at. And the reason we found this very positive was bringing in the different aspects. So we're open-minded. We look at different areas maybe we hadn't thought about. I'm looking at your chart behind you, but we have process and technology, stakeholder engagement, capability and mindset, organization structure, different areas maybe we hadn't thought about, and then focusing not just on cost but on value.
That's really good. And I suppose just to finish, we've worked with you on the maturity assessment. You've got some insights. You've started to do something with those insights. What next in terms of how you're taking forward the value that you found from that exercise?
Yeah, so we're actually taking we're putting a strategic improvement plan together, taking into account the feedback from future purchasing, but our own. We actually had a follow-on workshop after our engagement with future purchasing, in terms of also getting the feedback directly from the team, and then we're going to be building that into our strategic improvement program for category management and strategic procurement moving forward. And we're already getting good questions from the business. What's your strategy for 2035? How are we going to manage risk management in the future? How are we? I think the phrase has been used, future-proof. How are we able to take advantage of the opportunities, but also have the flexibility to cope with the global risks that are out there at the moment, and the dynamics that we see that take us on this growth path. So we're going to be looking at all those aspects, also looking at our digitalization and our how can we also do things more efficiently as well and more effectively. So we're going to look at all those aspects and build that into the plan. We have some milestones coming up. So we actually have our Global Supplier Conference in October, and we're going to try to be able to share the framework a little bit also with our strategic suppliers when we have that event. So we're not going to rush it. We're already delivering, so we're going to continue delivering, but we're going to try to really build that plan and then work out which priority areas we want to do first.
Great. I think we're reaching the end of this interview. I think, Mark, you maybe have one last question and then we'll try and wrap up.
Yeah, it was just the one key takeaway you would say, Rob, from your engagement with us over the last few months.
No, thank you, Mark. So if there's one key takeaway from this activity, our president, Lisa, she has introduced a value for us to consider in the company last year, which we're continuing with, which is being curious or staying curious, curiosity. So what does that mean? Well, that means as a value, that means that you're open-minded, you're open to new ideas, you're willing to look at new ideas, you're open to feedback. And that's something that we're trying to bring through our whole business and is very relevant to the work we've done with future purchasing. So staying curious is my big takeaway at the end.
Excellent. Well, hopefully all of the ideas that the maturity assessment threw out, which was a heck of a lot, which hopefully we distilled down quite neatly. But yeah, there was a lot of curiosity from the teams on how they could improve for sure.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, appreciate it.